Hello and welcome to today's episode of Spec Steppin. So today's spec is the CSS Painting API. And before I dive into the details on it, just note on your screen, this is an experimental API. So I wouldn't use it in any production app, but I would maybe get familiar with it because although the final fully released one might have some different options and things in the methods, it still would make you familiar with how to possibly use it when it becomes a non-experimental API. So what is the CSS Painting API? Imagine you have an application you're building where you are trying to provide some, let's say, for example, different color indicators on backgrounds of items, maybe list items or different parts of the screen, or maybe you have an e-commerce application and you want to highlight items in a cart that are on sale. There's different ways you can go about this. You could do something as simple as having a class of some sort and dynamically through maybe a function that you build, applying that class to the item. You can do that. But if you are doing some complex designs, you can still do what I mentioned about assigning classes and things like that programmatically. But this allows and is hopefully opening a door for even some more complexity type of things in your logic for design. So basically, the functionality allows you to create some custom values as far as the styles and things go. And you can pass it into the paint function. And that paint function is basically applies those to the background image property of the CSS. Now, I don't know if in the final release, if that will be the only property that's available, maybe in the first final release when it's non-experimental, maybe that's the case. But this allows you to do maybe some highlighting things. You know, another possible example is where you may allow your end users to choose the color. And so you need to store that color in a variable. A little harder to do in CSS, so you could do it in a JavaScript variable and have that be a part of this paint image. So there are some examples here on the official documents, but let me jump into the code and just show you a few things. First of all, the HTML. The HTML is pretty simple in my example here. I just have a div with a class of element with checkerboard. We're going to create a checkerboard using this. And so if I go to the JS page here, actually, let me jump open to the styles. Let me show you that one first. So this class just gives me the width and height. I'm just creating a checkerboard, so a square. So that's what this div is going to be. And I have this basically variable, CSS variable I'm creating, checkerboard spacing, where I'm just doing 10 pixels. So each part of it has some 10 pixel space on it. And in my background image, here's a paint method right here where I'm passing checkerboard into it. So now how does this work with the JavaScript? So let me open this. So this is our what they call worklet. So I have this class of checkerboard painter. I'm getting the input properties. So here I'm grabbing that checkerboard spacing. That's this CSS variable right there. And then my paint method here contains these three elements. First, any parameters, CTX parameters, any size, and properties. And so then first my spacing. So I'm getting my 10 pixel variable, CSS variable. And in my properties, I'm grabbing the properties, passing this variable to it and the value of it. If it doesn't exist, it's going to make it 32. And then I'm just doing a simple for loop and using a Y variable here where I'm starting off with equals 0. And as long as it's less than the size height that I'm passing through, and then I'm just adding that spacing to it right here that I'm getting up here each time. So it'll grow from 0, that space for the height. And then inside there, I'm also doing the width. So the height, the y-axis, the width, the x-axis, same sort of logic here. It's just the width versus the height. And then in my context, basically the canvas board here, I'm doing a fill style where I'm dividing that spacing each time. I'm doing a modulo, so I can do odd and even, basically. And if there's, it's either going to be black or white. And then I'm just doing a fill where I'm saying go into the X and Y item and use the spacing and fill it with the black and white. So, and then you've got to register the paint, this paint function, this checkboard painter within the API. So I'm registering it as a checkerboard. And then over here, I've got another JavaScript. And then also just note here, this is the one I'm attaching, the CSS painting. This is the worklet that does the actual work with the API, but this is the one that's attached to the HTML. So first thing I'm doing is I'm checking to see if my worklet is actually existing and registered, which is what this does. Okay. So I'm checking for a paint worklet, see if that's in the CSS. And then if it is, I'm adding in this JavaScript. So basically this line says, okay, can I work with the CSS Paint API? Because some browsers you can't. If it is, then I'm adding this module, paintworklet.js, which does all the registering, the sizes, and the specifications and everything. And I'll just console logging out, hey, it's registered sort of thing. If not, I catch errors. Or else I say if the paint worklet doesn't exist in CSS, it's not supported. But again, most of the work is done in here. So basically I'm saying, okay, let's take this 190 by 190 space. We have some spacing of 10, so I can do some easy math there. And I'm getting properties and I'm passing through size and all that stuff. So this will actually do the painting. So what then kicks it off? Well, when this loads, my JavaScript here loads. Here it says, okay, can I do CSS painting? If so, then add in my worklet. And in here is where it starts. So first I get my input properties. Okay. My input properties is going to be this style right here. Then I'm passing through my context size properties, grabbing the spacing, my size, the 190 by 190, that's basically what I'm getting for my context, all that stuff. And then it's going to do the black, white, black, white, black, white, basically with whatever the spacing value is. So with all that said, let me jump to the code here, or the actual on the front end. And this is what the end result ends up being. So if I open here, I do have paint worklet registered successfully here. Okay, so let me just refresh. Yep, it's registered successfully. So if I want to do something different with styles and spacing, things like that, I can change some styles in here. I could change these to not be black and white, whatever colors you want to be. I would encourage you to take this code, mess with it, put some console logging in it to see kind of what are some of the things that you can do programmatically to maybe write some HTML that's minimal while providing some interesting functionality on the back end with the JavaScript and the styles. So if you have any questions on this, let me know. And if not, happy stepping.